Hey, welcome everybody to this podcast where Liz and I are going to talk about something really important, and that's defining your circle. And we're talking about defining your circle of people that are around you in your life. You know, you're going to have influence and you are going to influence. You want to make sure you're connected up with the right people. So Liz and I just had a really good, fiery conversation about this, to where we laid out some really practical and spiritual wisdom. You're going to be super blessed as you hear this today. So this is a really important discussion that we're talking about defining your circle. And this is just another way of phrasing, who you hang around. And I think part of the phraseology we're using is really important, defining. And I think it's understood that you are the one that defines your circle. And when we talk about your circle, we're talking about the people that we associate with, that are around us. And this is really challenging, and this bleeds over into every kind of relationship. So looking at a family, and not just a family as far as just, mom and dad and kids, but you can have a single mom that could be dealing with this. You could have just husband and wife. You could have just a single person. Yeah. And learning to define who is around you. You're not defining them, but you're defining your circle. Like, this is what the Lord, has for my life right now. That's a very, very important thing, because relationships will determine your destiny.
That's right.
They will feed into your destiny, I'll put it that way, and they can either propel it or they can slow it down. And this doesn't mean that we use people, but it's just the nature of the ones that we're around. They're either growers or they're non-growers. They're either moving forward or they're not moving forward. And it doesn't mean we don't have grace for people that aren't moving forward, because we spend I don't know how much time weekly talking, communicating, and fellowshipping with, and discipling, and counseling people that we wouldn't necessarily consider to be real hardcore, full-fledged, on fire, red hot for Jesus. And so there's tons of grace there. But we also, as far as the people that we really closely associate with, first of all, you only have so much time for so many people. So and I'm a quality time guy, so that's been tough. That, like, I love so many people, and we have so many quality people around us, but you can't give everybody a ton of time. It's just impossible. But the ones that we brought close around us, we have defined our circle, and I think our circle has been defined by the Lord doing it, but then also our destiny doing it, but then also us being intentional about, like, this person is good for me and I'm good for them. And we're growing in the Lord together.
That's right. And we have defined that we want some of the same things. And not only that we want some of the same things, that we value some of the same things, but we're actually going in the same direction. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, and we have to know sometimes friendships are very seasonal. And that it's okay when the season changes. Mm-hmm. When the season changes, that you go your own way, and you still might remain acquaintances, but as far as being tight, you're not going to be spending all of your time together. That's just not going to happen. And I think in life in general, that changes when you get married. It changes when you have kids, because the quantity of your time is, or should be, spent with your spouse and spent with your children. Yep. And then friends are outside of that. And so it has to be not only a good fit for you, but a good fit for everybody. And I can even remember this being difficult for me right when we were getting married, is that, I have friends, and then just the direction of our life was shifting. Mm-hmm. And we were changing people groups. We're mainly because we moved geographically, but just because the direction our life was going. And I remember that being so hard, because it's like you have this halt, and it's different. And a lot of times as people, we don't like change. We don't like different. We don't like having to learn to be vulnerable with different people. You get comfortable sometimes when you're around the same people all the time.
Which is which is a kind of a two-edged sword, or a blessing and a curse at the
Right,
same time,
right.
because you want to be comfortable with people.
That's right.
That's part of what makes, in particular, close friendships. It's part of what makes it good. You can go up to their house and kick your shoes off, and vice versa, unless your feet stink. But there's a whole inside story about that. But but on the flip side, when you're around people that you're just comfortable with, oftentimes there's not the growth and the pursuit of the Lord like it needs to be there, and you don't ever want that to be. You don't want it to be like that.
That's right.
But ultimately, when it comes to defining your circle, and I think there's a lot of levels and layers to this, and I think just involving the Lord in it is the primary ingredient. Saying,
Yes.
Lord, what does this look like? But when you're seeking the Lord, you're going to have more intentionality to your life.
That's right.
When you're not seeking the Lord, and for those that are listening, you know what it looks like to seek the Lord. I mean, you know what that looks like. If you're not seeking the Lord, you're going to have less intentionality, and you're going to open up yourself to relationships that probably are not going to benefit you, because you're going to attract how you see yourself. And if you're pursuing the Lord, it's because you see yourself as a son, a daughter, a pursuer of the Lord, and that's why you do it. Well, just by default, you're going to make other people that are not pursuing the Lord uncomfortable. They're not going to be comfortable, and they're not going to want to be around you. And I'm not saying that you need to irritate everybody, and I've irritated a lot of people just because I'm so driven with the Word and with the Lord and with truth that I've had to learn how to harness that relationally. So only some people can handle me. But even the more relaxed version of me still is in pursuit of the Lord, and people that don't want that, honestly, I'm not going to try to go after people that don't want what I want. And so we have to come to this place to where we have to know us and know, do we value just any relationship over the right relationships? And I think a lot of people,
That's a good question.
they really only care about, I've got a friend, and I got a buddy we're going to go hang out with. Well, is that friend or that buddy good for you? The Bible says that bad company corrupts good morals.
That's right.
So if you've got somebody that maybe they have similar interests to you, like I told you recently, I love to play golf. And
Yes.
I really don't have a lot of people around me that like to play golf. I have two guys actually, as time allows, that I will play golf with them. But it's, we're so busy. But anyways, I was talking about golf and guys that play golf that are not submitted to the Lord, like they're not godly men. It's vulgar. It's drinking. It's cussing. It's on the golf ball on the golf course. You have a lot of jokes that get made that are not appropriate. And so, anyways, that I told you recently. I'm like, I would never play in a league because it would just be, I'd have to go back and wash my mind every time that it got, that it happened. And so who do you want to be around?
So that was really good. And it was some sacrifice on your part, because you're not going to just go be with people because for the sake of being with them to pursue something that you really enjoy doing and you can grow at and get better at. You have defined, like, these are the things that I value. I value the words that are said when I am present. I value the conversation that is being talked about. I value not wasting time in conversation just talking about whatever, to just say that I could go play with some people that we could become acquaintances. We could actually even build a friendship, but it's they're not going the same way that I'm going.
Right.
So you've said no to that. So that kind of pushed some things out of your circle, so to speak. And
because I would actually love to play on a golf league. That would be a blast.
And you probably would grow in your golfing playing on a golf league,
but
too.
Who cares? Because that's not
Right.
eternal.
Right. But it would hurt you.
Yeah.
It would hurt
Yeah.
you and challenge your beliefs and challenge your values, and could get you to start actually moving in a direction that you aren't intended to go. And so we have to be just intentional. We have to know. If we don't define, if we don't know what it is that we want and what we're after, then we'll just let whoever come and be a part of the circle that we have.
Right.
And sometimes I think too, because, for people who are extroverts, for people who need or want or desire a lot of friends, they'll let anybody into that space.
Yeah.
So like, come. We're not
Yeah.
talking about like just ministering. We're talking about the appearance of, because I have so many friends, it makes me feel better. It makes me
Wrong motivation.
yes,
Yeah.
look better.
Yeah.
And they're not, who in this group is actually even knows me? Who
Yeah.
am I being real with?
Yeah.
And probably the honest
all-
answer is nobody. I
Right.
just want a lot of people
And all
there.
for the sake of having, maybe a title or not a title, but just people would say, oh, they're the fun house, and everyone
Yes.
always having a pool party or this, that, or the other. And I think at what expense? Because I have people running through my head right now that I know of that it's like, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having fun, having people over, but
Right.
just anybody. I mean, do you really want anybody just hanging around your kid? Do you really just want anybody hanging around your spouse? Do you really want anybody coming into your home and using your facilities and eating at your table? And the answer is no, you don't.
That's
And
right.
so there is hospitality. Of course, we major on hospitality in our
Yes.
church. It's one of our core values. And in our life, we live that way. But I don't let everybody come over to my house and eat at my table. There's certain people that I don't want to sit down and eat the meal of what they're offering. And it's not because I don't love them. And see, people that are not serving the Lord usually get offended by this kind of conversation. Oh, or if they're just lacking understanding, they're like, well, you think you're better than. No.
And
I
you're
value,
using
I value,
people.
yeah, right. And I value my time, and I value my thinking, and I value my home enough that I'm not going to subject myself to just whatever. And flat out, not everybody's going the same direction that we are. And so for us, this bleeds over into ministry. As ministers, we don't set a table for everybody in the church all of the time. On Sunday mornings, man, it's a smorgasbord for everybody. Everybody's invited. Everybody can come. Everybody can benefit if they so choose to. And then we have other things where we will cater to people that want to eat the particular food that we're dishing out. And I saw something not long ago, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I saw somebody made a post about how it was almost like pastors need to stop having leader meetings and stuff like that because they're not including people that need to be included, and everybody should be able to eat the food that they're dishing out, or whatever, however it was phrased. And I thought that's going to be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. Not everybody wants what you've got. Not everybody's going where you're going. So, as far as like church is concerned, we have leader meetings because we have people that say, I want to take what's in your heart and I want to run with you in that.
That's
well,
right.
in life, it's the exact same way. You can be hospitable. You can love everybody. And I think you should be kind and courteous and
Yes.
honoring and loving towards everybody, but that doesn't mean you sit at the same table with every person and get intimate with them. It doesn't mean that you bring just anybody over to your house. You can pull Bible verses out that about, just like the parable of the Good Samaritan, and he was helping somebody, and and so there's truth there that you'd be willing to help and be welcoming and inviting and hospitable, but I don't see anything in there about that Good Samaritan to where he topsy-turvied his whole life and made everything revolve around that person. So we have to use wisdom when it comes to the relationships that we have. The Bible says don't be unequally yoked. We use that almost exclusively for marriage.
That's right.
And it's really just about covenant in general.
That's right.
And yeah, it applies to marriage. You don't want to be equally yoked up or be unequally yoked with somebody. Meaning, and the picture of that, to be yoked, I always thought of an egg when I was a kid, like an egg yolk. But it's really like you yoke oxen together.
That's right.
And if you have a real strong ox, and then you have somebody who's really weak and can't hold their own weight, it doesn't mean that maybe you wouldn't put them in the same stall or that they wouldn't be in the same field together when they're not working, I guess. I don't know, all these analogies you could pull out.
Right.
But as far as yoking up and moving forward, the yoking is you are tied together, and a yoke is a thing that would go around two oxen. Well, if you had just a baby yoke and you had a full-grown, a baby ox,
Yes.
and then a full-grown mature ox, the full-grown mature one is going to be hindered by the baby one, and the baby one is going to be drug along and hurt and injured
Because of
by the bigger one.
That's right.
And so when it comes to relationships, we should allow the Lord to yoke us up with people that can run with us and not hinder us and not hurt us.
That's right. And, I think too, it's like a posture, because if you're going forward and you're wanting to go in a different direction, there's always like stepping up and being able to, for people who are growing, who want good relationships, who want people to continue to pour into them so they can go forward, like, you understand that the people who are ahead of you don't just choose anybody to come sit at their table. They choose people who have shown themselves to be hungry, to pull, to draw,
That's what Jesus did with the disciples.
That's right,
yeah.
to ask questions. And so it's not being mean.
Right.
It's like, it's really being able to even self-evaluate ourselves and say, where am I? What am I doing? Is this even a thought that has crossed my mind? Like, have I really sat and said, these are the people that are around me?
Yeah.
But actually over here is the people I need to be around me.
Right.
Because if you're saying, I'm not going to live a particular lifestyle anymore, or I don't want even these core beliefs, or I'm tired of thinking this way, or I don't want to be stuck in these situations anymore, and you remain with the people who are stuck, with the people who are doing the same things that you are saying you don't want to be a part of, then you won't move forward, because
you're tied to them.
You're tied to them. So it's like, you have to just say, I'm going to be okay with letting these people go. And it's not that you didn't learn anything, or not that you didn't even value all the time that you had with them. And for goodness sake, like, they're people, they're humans. There are good things that you can get from anybody. There are valuable lessons that could be learned. There are things that could be or could have been imparted in that season. But when it is time to change seasons, when it is time to go a different direction, then you just have to be okay with saying, it's okay. Yeah. And I see, like, I've seen this happen just even in our lives, where it used to be a little bit of a struggle to let go. And when I mean let go, it's just like not spend as much time with particular people anymore, so that I could spend more time. Because as you get older, as you have family, as you have friends, like, your time is limited.
It's very limited
to what you can spend. And so people who are very intentional want to spend time with the people who are going to help them develop the new mindsets, help them go in the direction, to encourage them to go forward. Because guess what? Not everybody is for you. And even people who say are your friends can be dealing with envy and jealousy and are not for you. They won't help you go forward.
We've experienced this. And it's not always about who can help me. It should be a mutualistic relationship.
Yes, it should be.
So, but they should be helping you, and you should be able to help them. And we've had times in different seasons in our life to where we have people around us that they wouldn't allow us to help them, nor were they helping us.
Right.
And when you get in that kind of situation, and sometimes the thing could have been of God, but then the season changed, and so things just end up changing. And so whenever you get into those kind of situations, you have to begin to ask the Lord, like, Lord, I can see where this needs to change. Help me be able to do this. It doesn't always need to be a hard, cold cut. Sometimes because you do care about them, they are people.
Yeah.
You want them to feel honored and loved, even in the midst of, that things need to change. You just pray about it. It's amazing how the Lord will cause change to happen in that. All of a sudden, they might cut you off.
Right.
And it may not feel good, but it might feel like, okay, it might be the truth is that this thing really needed to change. But whenever people... the further you go into leading, and you could apply leadership stuff. It's not just a church thing. It's an everything in a life thing. And the further you go in leading and advancing in life, the more particular you have to be about the people that are around you. Because higher levels of leadership require an enormous amount of time. And we have to be very careful. You and I don't know how many hours we work in a week towards doing what we're doing with with this ministry, with Ward Ministries, and then also we've got 2 campuses, and then the different connections we have with ministers and just counseling people and meeting with people. I mean, it's safe to say we probably spend, I know I spend 60 hours a week working. Some of it's not always sitting at a desk or in a meeting. It's in other ways.
Right.
But I would say between the 2 of us, we probably put 100 hours into ministry a week. We probably do.
Probably.
I would say 80 on a slow week between the 2 of us. We only have so much time to spend with people. So I'm not going to go and pursue everything that we're doing in our calling. And of course, we're in ministry, so other people would have different things. But I'm not going to go spend time with people that are going to hinder what it is that I'm doing. I want to be able to benefit them, and they need to be able to benefit me. They need to be able to benefit us. So then, in the terms of looking at this in the idea of family, and we just kind of threw a broad net out here and haven't been real specific. But when it comes to family and with kids, what are some things that you would say about helping to make sure your family is in a place that because when our kids are, especially when they're real young, we control who they're around.
That's right.
I mean, that's just how it goes. So what would you say to parents of children how to go about making sure that your kids are in the right environment and around the right people?
Well, they do need friends too, and they want friends. So a lot of times that looks like you going and meeting people. Church is like a really great place to do that, or what things that you value, things that you guys like doing together.
So people should go to church.
They should.
Yeah,
you should go to church.
I can't believe the amount of people that know that they should go to church but don't go to church. And so they suffer for it because they don't like.
It's a great place for
They don't
community.
like particular things. Well,
Right.
big deal,
Right.
It is a great place for community.
And not all churches, harbor great community. So, anyways, you find community. You find people who are like-minded. You find people who have values like you have, and then
or like you want.
That's right. And then you just start testing the waters, and especially for moms, like on play dates, you just see if it's going to be a good fit, if our kids gel. Like if the moms are awesome together but the kids aren't, then it's probably not going to work out, because that relate, I value that the kids are getting along just as much as the parents are getting along. Mm-hmm. Now, they're not going to be the 100% driving force, but I want them, and to me, that is knowing a good fit is when the parents are doing well and the kids are doing well too.
Yeah.
And then you just keep going forward in that. And then it's something just like in all relationships that you have to keep pursuing, you have to keep going forward in. Otherwise, it's not going to happen, because...
So when it's one-sided, it doesn't work.
That's right. You have to pursue. You have to do your due diligence to continue to pursue the relationship, even for your kids sometimes. Too, and for yourself.
Which to me looks like, so this is I think a real predicament to when you have believers that, and just let me preface this by saying I'm not against public schools. Well, yeah, I pretty much am. But I understand people have situations where they have to put their kids in a school, and that's what they feel like they can do. And we encourage people like that. We pray for people like that. We strengthen people like that. We don't judge anybody. I just know what goes on in the schools, and it's getting worse and worse and worse by the day. So if you can find a different avenue to educate your kids, which we should do an entire thing, a podcast on schooling, and give our philosophy about schooling, because I think the philosophy that's in the school system is totally broken. It's anti-God. It doesn't really help train your child in the way that they should go. So there's a lot we could say about all that. But when you have parents that are having their kids in not even just a public school, but also a private school maybe that doesn't line up with their belief system, and then they want to, their kids want to become friends with those kids because they're with them in school. That's a very difficult thing.
It is challenging.
I think the parents have to come back and go, where is my kids spending time? because, and this is one of the reasons that we decided years ago that we were going to homeschool our kids. We don't think we're better than anybody. You don't wear your hair in a bun. You wear makeup, and we wear shorts and we go swimming, right? So everything's fine. But we decided we wanted to determine the direction that our kids were going to go. And if we put them or give them more than the direction they're going to go, but help them develop the way that God made them. And there is so much peer pressure that happens, and peer pressure can be good or it can be bad. And this is for kids and for adults. And so if you put your kids in an environment where the pressure or the desire to fit in, because everybody has a desire to fit in.
Sure.
That's universal. And if their desire to fit in is even halfway strong, which for most kids it's more than halfway, but if it's even halfway strong, you're going to find your kids bending and looking and being molded into the ones that they are around, whether it's good or it's not good. And people wonder why their kids, have so many challenges with their kids. And I'm not condemning anybody. We haven't done parenting perfect. I don't know anybody that has done parenting perfect. But what I am saying is that you have to be the one to determine where your kids are going to hang out.
That's right.
You can't just be like,
and
teach them. Johnny Boy down, that's right. And Johnny Boy down the street, he's my buddy and, we're neighbors. This is another thing. People, and I'm fine with living in neighborhoods. You got to live somewhere or whatever. But just because you're in a cul-de-sac doesn't mean your kids need to be friends with all of the kids in the cul-de-sac. Yeah, they might play ball out in the street, but do they really need to go spend the night at their house? Do they really need to be, going over and playing games at their house and stuff? Do you know those people? Do you know their value system? Do they even believe in the Lord? Do their kids have tarot cards in the room? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on that parents are like, oh, they're just friends and they're just having a good time together. You don't know what's going on. You better make sure the people that you're around are going after the same stuff that you're going after. Don't let your kids be yoked up with people that you're not yoked up with when they're younger. Now, when they get older, you train them, which is I think is what you're going to say. You train them and teach them in this, and they can begin to develop some of their own friendships.
So you teach them core beliefs.
Yeah.
You teach them why we have those core beliefs, and then all of a sudden, what you'll see is that they're not going to compromise those beliefs, and because they're led by those beliefs,
that's right,
that they'll automatically say yes or no to friendships.
Yeah.
They'll say, that's not going to work out.
Yeah.
That's going to work out. And I'll just say, I have to, on some level, especially with our kids being younger, be a friend to the parent that wants to be a friend to my, that has kids.
Yeah.
There has to be that level. And then I always, when there is a new kid that maybe isn't in our circle, it's always I'm present, and if we wanted to introduce and see if it would work or whatever.
You be the guard in that. You be the watchman.
Yes, you be the watchman. They come to my house. We evaluate. And then even I'm able to have a conversation after that friend is left or after that play date is over and say, how did that feel? Do you guys have the same, do you like the same things? Did you play well together? What was your communication like? Did you have fun? And so they'll be able to communicate no or yes. And so I think we have to help them to know they don't have to have tons of friends. They don't have to have tons of people in their circle. We need to know this as adults. We don't have to have tons of people that get our time, that are our best friends. 1, 2, 3, a small few is enough, and honestly is all you can manage when you have a family, when you have other things that you're going after. And so teaching your children that at a young age is so vital for them.
Yeah, that's so good. So it's walking that out in real time in real life, but then it's also teaching them and showing them what you're doing as you're doing it, why you're doing that.
Right. Yeah. Have lots of conversation.
And this is one of the things too, and I'm going to throw this gripe out here, and then we're going to be done with this. But it's amazing to me the amount of trouble that people have, and I know that it's not a perfect world, and there's people that have been in church environment, and they experience really bad stuff.
Yes.
And I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me the amount of people that will not be involved with believers. Whatever your church situation looks like, all right? Every church is different, and yours isn't better than anybody else's, Anyways, But it's amazing to me why people would choose to not put their kids in an environment, church, to help feed into and minister into and help speak into your child and their development in the relationship with the Lord. But they'll allow them to be around anybody and everybody on the baseball team, on the soccer team, at school, at neighborhoods, and they don't intentionally go and say, we love all those people, but this is our tribe right here. This is our tribe. These are our people.
And then when you do...
That's not cultish. That's being intentional
Yes.
with your children. We're supposed to be that way. We're supposed to be that way. And God's got a people that we're called to. And we heard somebody recently that they said, I just don't have a tribe. Well, that's your fault. That's your fault for not being intentional. You know what? Maybe you've had rotten experiences in church. Not every church is bad. Because to me, it's all about church. Because the church is all about, the church of the Lord Jesus.
The real true.
The real true church. Which there's lots of representations of that all over. You can find people that are like-minded around you somewhere that are seeking after Jesus. You can find it, and then you be intentional to do that. There's no replacement for that. There is no replacement for that because they carry the knowledge of God, the wisdom of God, the Spirit of God, the presence of God, and you need to have that in your life. Your kids need that. And so people wonder why their kids don't go to church when they get older, when they didn't go to church. They didn't take their kids to church, and they set a bad pattern. So anyways, I got that off my chest. But it's really important that you do what's good for you. I remember telling somebody one time they weren't coming around much, and they were struggling. They still struggle to this day. And after service one time, I pulled them aside. I said, I have a word for you. And they didn't receive it, and I knew they wouldn't, and they didn't. And I said, you need to make sure to do what you know is good for you. Because they would show up, and they'd be like, this is awesome. And then they would just disappear. And then I'd get a phone call of like catastrophic stuff was happening. I'm like, dang, that really sucks. That's horrible. And it's because they would just go live their life totally apart from people that could bless them and help them and minister to them. And they would have avoided a lot of that stuff. But they didn't do what they knew was good for them for whatever reason, just lazy, getting fleshy, whatever. And we can't afford to do that with our family and our kids.
In our own lives that we haven't.
The list goes on and on. This podcast has gone on and on. But I think we laid out some good stuff that will help some people. So, amen. Amen.
Thank you for listening in on this conversation. We hope this has and will continue to encourage you in your marriage and family. Don't forget to download and comment and share this episode. You can check out Ward Ministries at wardmen.org. If you have any questions, please email us at info@wardmen.org. Keep your eye out weekly for our latest conversation on marriage and family.